Kakumba, and with me are my colleagues, Kenneth Akmazi, the Senior Compliance Auditor. Thank you for joining us, Kenneth. I have Faith. Thank you for joining us, Faith.
Thanks, Winnie.
And Michael. Today's theme is we're going to discuss the role of an employer in enabling retirement. And without further ado, we are going to start. Michael, from a layman's perspective, what is retirement?
Okay, thank you so much, Winnie. Good morning to you all, viewers, employers, members. My name is Michael Mugisa. I work as a Senior Manager of Voluntary Business. So the question comes regarding retirement. I would say that retirement is that phase in life when someone stops working, either fully or reduces the hours of work. This means either they have reached an retirement age. Every country has completely different ages that are considered a retirement age, I should say. In Uganda, we look at 55. Other institutions are looking at 60. Others have increased to 65. I don't know if it's still growing. But that's a phase, a certain phase in life that someone has stopped working and now has moved into completely a new phase. And that phase can take you the next 20 to 30 years. So I don't say really like you stop working, but you get out of formal employment. Or you stop where you're directly engaging and earning, say, a salary. So it's just a stop of one phase of life and then getting to another.
Thank you, Michael. And retirement happens to all of us.
True.
Today you're working, tomorrow you're not working. Our theme today is discussing the role of an employer in enabling retirement. So that's why I asked you to explain to the viewers what retirement means. We'd also like to understand, who is an employer? Kenneth, who is an employer? Who is an employer?
Okay, thank you, Winnie. Good morning to you all. So an employer, by definition under the NSSF Act, is an individual organization that is currently employing even one person. If you look at the Act before it was amended in 2022, there was an eligible employer that needed to have at least 5 employees to be eligible for NSSF. But as of January 2022 going forward, if you employ even one person, you are considered an eligible employer for NSSF contributions. Now, this may include the government of Uganda, or government agencies. It may include any company which is incorporated under the Companies Act, any trustee or partnership, and even subcontractors. Because many times I've seen in our engagement with employers, a company may be working with, let's say, casual laborers, but they get a subcontractor who will bring his employees to do work for this company. Now, legally, those casual laborers may not be employees of the company, but they're employees of the subcontractor. So that subcontractor now becomes an employer. So under the fact, even subcontractors are now employers, or even managers who are employing employees. Yeah. So the requirement, as I've said, is just one employee. If you have one, then you're eligible from January 2022 going forward. Before then, you needed at least 5 employees.
So currently, irrespective of the number of employees,
yes,
you qualify to register as an employer.
Yes, you become an eligible employer for NSSF.
Thank you, Kenneth. Over to you, Faith. Could you take us through the mandate of NSSF? What is our mandate in line with the theme of today?
Thank you, Winnie. The mandate of the fund is threefold. 1, we collect contributions. 2, we invest. And then 3, we pay out. That is the basic mandate of the fund. We are on the receiving end from the employers and receiving on behalf of the employees. So we are the link that helps the employees have their money with us, received from the employers, and later paid out to them. So basically, our mandate is threefold. Collect contributions, invest these contributions. I'm sure we've heard of interest declarations. It's after the investment, and then we pay out the different types of benefits. That is our mandate.
Thank you, Faith. So maybe I could also ask you to explain what are the obligations of an employer in regards to the theme.
Yes, in regards to theme, basically, I like the quote from Noam Chomsky. Chomsky, yes. It's about the duty of care. Social security is about the duty of care. You need to care whether the widow across will have a retirement plan. So as an employer, when you are employing people, you need to have that duty of care. You have staff that are working for you, employees that are working for you. It's not about what they do for your company, but what can you also do for them? How do you care for them that after retirement, that Michael mentioned, they can continue to live, because life doesn't stop. So in line with the theme, they're about four folds where the employer can enable. One, an employer can ensure that all the employees are registered. You know, it's quite interesting that when you go to work and start working, there are very few employers that ask for NSSF numbers. But the fact that you're going to employ someone and they're going to earn a wage, the first criteria would be, yes, give me your bank account where I'll pay your wages, but also give me your NSSF number where the money will be remitted on your behalf. It's as simple as that. It's duty of care. And I would also think you owe it to register all your employees that work with you. It's one thing to just pay them the wage, because if you look in the community around you, I'm very sure we live with people who have retired. And we all know there are those that we say that one has retired quite so well, and there are those that have retired, you know, in a scanty kind of way.
They're working in NSSF.
Exactly.
Now,
But now look at them, they have nothing. So would you be an employer who would take credit for the employee who retired with their savings and is doing quite so well? Or would you be the one who is, I don't care. For me, I pay them their salary. But what happens when the salary stops coming? That's the question employers need to ask themselves. What happens if I'm 55, I no longer have salary? What happens? So I like I said, Winnie, it's about, there are four folds. The first is just ensure they register.
I've registered, yes.
Yeah. Then to ensure that you remit. It's one thing to register, but are you remitting? Okay?
Yeah.
Because I could have the NSSF number and the money is not remitted. Ensure as an employer that each month you remit for your employees steadily, you know, consistently. Let them not have gaps. I've had when people come in to get their midterm and the 120 contributions are not there. It's disheartening when someone has worked and you're 45 and you realize that, hey, look here, I cannot get this benefit because there was no consistency in the what? In the remittances that were made. It's you've breached that duty of care to me because I gave you my all when I was working, you know. Then the third is just keep proper records. Keep proper records. You should have a record of all your employees. You know, I hear when our team goes out to different employers, the first thing is, no, we don't have those records. But you have an employee who's only at the end saying, I've worked for this employer for 10 years. You go to the employer and the employer says, I don't have those records. So just keep proper records. Records that someone earned this amount of money, was paid this. New HRs come in, there are no records. But if there are proper records, then the new person can get where to start from, you know. And I encourage employers, please give employees, these end of service letters, they really need them to come and claim their benefit. And the last is help them in their wellness, financial wellness. You're the gap between the fund and the employee, you know. You ensure that they are enlightened about the benefits they have. There are some employees who think of the now. They don't think of the future. For them, give me my money now. Because it's little money, no. But they're not thinking 40 years, you'll be stuck. Because your daily income has stopped. So be the employer that helps with wellness. Build the team. Teach them to save. Teach them, no, we must remit this money. It's not for my good as an employer, but for you as well, you know? And if there are any issues, reach out to any of the branches. We have so many branches around. Reach out, my employee has this concern. How do I help? So when I think that is what an employer can enable.
How we can enable.
Yeah.
I pick something from your discussion, your submission. You've talked about an employee who is not remitted for. So as an employee, I'm working with NSSF and they've not been remitting for me. Is it an offense, first of all, for the employer not to remit my contributions? And as an employee, if I'm not willing to have my contributions remitted in NSSF, what does the employer do? First of all, is it an offense for the contributions not to be remitted?
Yes. Yes, it's an offense. If you fail to remit, it's an offense and it has penalties. You know, you have an obligation to ensure that you are remitting, and that's why we mention that register and ensure that the person you registered for is remitted for, so that you're not caught on the wrong side of the law. It is an offense, and we usually file in the courts of law to ensure that employees' remittances are met. Because in the end of it, the employee has a right to take both the employer and us to say, yes, my money was not remitted. Can my money be remitted? And of course, as the fund, we look at the employer, because the fund does not remit. It is you, the employer. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Faith. Maybe Kenneth, can you guide us on the percentages that are remitted on NSSF?
As being aware, wage this person is earning. So normally, many companies may look at just the basic, the base wage that someone is earning and ignore the allowances. But the law says any emoluments which are payable in cash form part of the wages. So as an employer, I should look at the total amount that you're paying in cash to this employee. Then, if it is a resident employee, who are, I would say, usually most likely Ugandans, or if they are possibly foreigners who have been in Uganda for a continuous period of 3 years, or even less, if they're willing to contribute, the employee contribution, the portion is 5% of their gross salary. And then the employer contribution is 10% of that gross salary. So the employer is then required to submit 15% of this person's wages to the fund. And then if it is a non-resident who has worked for less than 3 years and is not willing to contribute, because it's optional for them if it's still less than 3 years, the employer should just contribute their portion, the 10%, without the employee's 5%. But what that employee should know, the non-resident, is that if the employer is paying that 10% without your 5%, you cannot claim for that money. So sometimes you get people earning, because if someone comes to Uganda from a foreign country, most likely they're going to earn a good salary. And initially, they may not trust that we'll pay back this money on time. So some may choose not to contribute their 5% for the 3 years. And then sometimes you may find that maybe 2 years have passed, someone does their calculation and realizes, actually, if I'd been paying my 5% as well, I would have saved quite a substantial amount of money. And then they normally request to reverse money, but it's a complicated process. And once that special contribution has been paid, we do not usually ask that it's reversed to the standard contributions.
Thank you, Kenneth, for that submission. Before we get more submission from Michael and maybe a follow-up, we want to welcome people that are joining us now. Maybe you joined in late. We are discussing employers' role in enabling retirement. We also want to call upon you to send in your questions in case you have questions that you want us to talk about. We also have gifts for the people that have signed in first. So please keep on. But before I have Michael, maybe to Ken, from the point that you've submitted, you've said, of course, the 5% comes from my salary, the 10% comes from the employer. So my question would be, as an employee, what is my responsibility in ensuring that my employer is doing the right thing? What do I have to do? And in case the employer is not maybe remitting my money, is there a platform that I can make use of to tell NSSF about that non-remittance?
Yeah, that's a very good and important question, because sometimes, especially when someone has just maybe finished school and started working, you may look at NSSF as sort of a tax. People are not interested because money is being deducted. But as an employee, there are quite a number of things that you should do. I'd say the first one is to make sure you're registered with NSSF. The requirement nowadays is one needs to have a national ID, because with that NIN and a phone number, we can easily register the member. But the other one also is to make sure you, if possible, if you can get a written contract with your employer, which hopefully can state the period that you started working with the employer, possibly the duration of your contract, and how much money you'll be earning from that employer. Because we have seen cases where, like Faith attached on the midterm benefit, when someone wants to come and claim, maybe they started working and they've taken a period of time without checking the NSSF statement. Then they come and realize possibly that the statement has gaps. Now, they could have been working from the 1990s to date and worked over among different employers. If you do not have a contract, it is difficult for us to follow up for certain periods, especially going further back decades to the 1980s, 1990s. So if someone can make sure that they have a copy of their contract, a written contract with that employer, and keep it safely, that's quite important. But then also, if you're registered, like I said, it's important that you keep checking periodically with NSSF. You can choose to, nowadays it's easy to use a phone. You can, if you have a phone, even if it's not a smartphone, you can type *254# on your phone and check to see a mini statement. You can get your balance. So you can monitor that monthly and see that your money is increasing as they keep making monthly payments. You can also use the NSSF Go app to check your payments and any gaps that in your previous employment where you possibly could have worked. Where you find that there are certain gaps, I think the first step would be to have an engagement or a discussion with your employer, if you're currently employed there. Find out what the issue could be, because sometimes you may find some companies are donor funded, and these funds may take a while to get to the employers. So it may not be that they're doing it intentionally, but just find out, have that discussion and see if, I think maybe you'll use your judgment and see that you can have that kind of discussion with your boss or your employer. But sometimes we know, depending on who's employing you, they may not be willing to have that kind of discussion. And if that's the case, if they're not willing to have that discussion with you, then you can come and inform NSSF. You can walk to one of the branches, like Faith had said. We have 19 branches right now across the country. So if you're nearby any branch, you can walk in and explain your case to any NSSF officer. You can also call our toll-free number, which is 0800 286 773. So even if you don't have airtime, you can still call in and submit your complaint. If you have access to the internet, we have a whistleblower platform on the NSSF website. You don't need to cram the website. You can just type NSSF Uganda on Google. On the website, there's a self-service portal where you click on individual, and then you can go to the whistleblower part and then submit your whistleblower complaint.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. Maybe what I want to ask Faith, in case I'm a whistleblower, am I protected? As in, I'm working with your company, you're my boss. Am I at liberty to come and whistleblow that now NSSF is not paying for me? Am I protected? What protection do I have as an employee?
It's quite an interesting question. I've come to realize, in all honesty, that most people don't come into whistleblower when they're still employed, because the fear of yes, you're safe, of course you're safe, but the fear of the unknown. What if my employer finds out that I whistleblow? And on top of that, I need this income. Okay, he still pays my wages. So it's a balance of sorts. Do I whistleblow if I'm in the employee's shoes? Do I whistleblow just for my NSSF? Okay, yes, they'll pay my hours. Or do I stay and work? Most of the complaints we've seen, or most of the whistleblowers, usually come in after they've finished to their contracts of service with the employers. They don't come in usually before. But I want to assure you that if you come in even before, you are protected. You know, there are different laws when it comes to whistleblowers that the fund also follows, and we maintain our obligations to you as a whistleblower. We don't reveal. We protect your identity, which is very key. And we also know that there is continuity. You have to keep on working. So please whistleblow, please use our forums, and you're protected. There's so many people that have come in, and we've really, really ensured that their remittances are paid. The fund will protect you in accordance to the laws. We do that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Faith. I want to quote the famous gentleman these days who says, Chiamba, it is our role. Retirement. Yes. But before we go to Michael, maybe I would like to invite people to submit their questions. Please send in your questions, because after this we'll be handling the questions. Michael, we've had a discussion from Faith and Kenneth talking about the mandatory side of NSSF, because NSSF is a contributory scheme. However, there's someone working in the informal sector. They are not employed with any formal organization. Is there a platform? Is there an arrangement that covers people that are employed in that kind of sector?
Okay, thank you so much, Winnie, and all my fellow panelists. I think the things that we speak of regarding retirement, I think it affects all, regardless. And I think we've had some of those discussions of someone who is in the formal and an informal sector, and realize that the key elements of retirement, basically financial independence, which is key, regardless of whether you're in a formal setting or an informal setting. There's an expected change of lifestyle. On the financial independence, you stop to rely on that income, on that daily, income or wage or monthly salary, and start relying on savings or investments or benefits like NSSF. Change of lifestyle, retirement frees you up to be able to, you find you have more free time maybe now for family, for ministry, for hobbies, for travel, for communities and in social engagements. And that comes to all of us regardless of the environment we are working in. And I should also say that purposeful living, as I mentioned earlier, that you're going to have, I usually have discussions with our members sometimes who come and they want to get the money early. And I tell them that, if you retire even at 55 and you live until 80, that's an additional how many years? Yet you find that you have spent almost the same time working, because most people start working at around 25 or about there. So if you've worked until 50, that's 25 years. 55, 30 years. You're likely to live another 20, 25, 30 years without earning, without salary, without, that kind of level of engagement that comes from your employer. And also to note, when you were transitioning to talk about informal, there's work that you do even in the informal sector that requires a lot of strength, requires a lot of energy, a lot of brain work, that it needs you mostly when you're still young and active, and the time is going to reach whether, if it's how do I call it, there are businesses that people run that fully depend on them. Say you're a plumber, and when a person needs plumbing, he wants Michael. Exactly, Michael. It means that you're the moving business. You understand? The day you're not well, that day, if there are any projects, There is no income coming through. Yeah. So, and we see that in so many other engagements. Even when you're running a shop, I tell people that even in those kind of businesses, you find that you carry the vision for the business, and everyone who brings in majorly comes in to earn a salary. So you find that even when you step out, somehow it's affected. We've been in some businesses where you're working at about 4:45, maybe they close at 5, and the person tells you, no, we are closing. And you say, you know what I need? I've come with the money, I'm paying, I won't even waste 2 minutes of your time. And the person says, no, we are closing, and they close the business. You understand? Why? Because you're the vision bearer, you're not in that kind of space. What am I trying to say is that regardless of the environment you sit in, whether in the formal or informal sector, a time is going to come. And you will have to rely on what you had put aside to grow. So from that kind of thought process, I'll lead us into what NSF is doing about that. Do you know that we've had mandatory for a long time? And I think it made sense then. But we have seen the informal sector grow, and we've seen many graduates and most of us were trained when we were young to get into employment. But we know that's changing now. And most people have gone into the informal sector. And we have made provision for that as NSSF. In 2022, when the law changed, when they amended the law, one of the key things that was given to the fund, which is, I think, a great advantage to this nation, is to increase coverage. And he mentioned when he was describing an employer where that cap was removed, now everyone can serve with NSSF. But speaking to that, a voluntary arm was also created. So it means that even you who is in the informal sector, you can save voluntarily. And we're going to come up with so many benefits. For now, we have 2 areas. We have what we call voluntary top-up. That speaks to people who already have balances with the NSSF. It means that you have said with NSSF before, possibly you left formal employment and now you're running your own business, you're doing whatever it is you're doing on the side. However, you have a balance and not yet eligible to claim it. So you can actually top up to that existing balance and grow that. And you know that our business, for those who have been with us for some time, that your fund grows, your benefits grow. And because of the multiplier effect on your balances, we see them, your monies grow. I was in a meeting actually with Winnie over the weekend. We had an engagement somewhere, and people came checking their accounts who had last worked with us for maybe 5, 7 or 10 years. And I remember this specific member who came, and I think in 2017 or 16, if I recall, they had about 390,000. And now when they checked, I think it was coming to 6 million. Yeah. They were shocked. Why? Because of compounded interest. So that means that whatever you're putting aside is growing. So there are people who may want to grow the existing balance because they want to enjoy that interest that NSSF declares every financial year. But beyond top up to existing balance, we also have the Smart Life Flexi. Now, Smart Life Flexi is a goal-based saving plan where, as an individual, you open an account, or those who already have accounts with us, either still in formal employment, or you were in formal employment, you left, or you're purely self-employed, you have never heard of NSSF before. And I speak that because I know most of you who are watching us, you have many people in that category, and you're going to help to be able to pass on this message and be able to encourage them. You can be enrolled, you get a Smart Life number, and be able to set goals, 1 or 2 or 3, there's no limit, and be able to set up goals and start saving. And this saving you can save on a daily, the frequency is up to you. Weekly, monthly, quarterly, whichever the case, depending, some of you, how the money comes in. But to ensure that you consistently save. So that area has also been provided. Maybe the only one difference I can say, that given it's open and the frequency is open, the limit is 5,000. You can save as much, there's no maximum. So the minimum is 5,000. And interest is computed daily, credited on a monthly basis. So this is a bit of a different structure from the mandatory. So that provision is there. And as I speak for those who are still already contributing, which we have quite a number of them right now who have enrolled for Smart Life, to say those who have not, also that area is available for you to be able to also to contribute and open an account of Smart Life even when you have the mandatory account running. I have a lot to say in there, but I'll first leave in so that you can trigger everything.
Thank you so much. I see that we have a number of questions that are coming towards us, and we are short on time.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll pick up the engagement. What I've picked from you is that I can also save, even if I don't have formal work, even if I'm not employed with an organization, I can open up an account and start saving, and the minimum is 5,000.
Yes.
And there's something that I've noted is that you don't need to move from Namavon to come to town.
Yes.
NSSF eri ku kyalo. So you can save with an agent. You can, there are so many. Maybe you'll take us through the channels, how someone can remit their savings. But for now, I want us to go into the questions because there are also quite many. People are asking. Maybe I'll give this to Faith. They need, I think, Kenneth, they need you to explain more about the expatriate contribution and eligibility to claim.
Okay. So like I said, in terms of contribution, there are two types. The standard contribution is 15%, where the member adds their 5% contribution. Then there's also special contribution for non-resident employees who have been in Uganda who are working in Uganda for less than 3 years. Now, for the non-residents, it's optional for them to contribute their 5% portion within the 3-year period, the first 3-year period. Once they've worked for longer than 3 years, they become resident employees, and then the mandatory portion comes in, so the 5% becomes you're supposed to contribute it as well. So, like I said, for the ones in the first 3 years, because it's optional for them, if they choose not to contribute their 5% portion, they cannot claim the 10% that the employer has contributed. So we need to keep that in mind. To claim your money, the 15%, you have to have put your 5%, your 5% employee contribution.
Maybe, Ken, while you're still answering that, there's someone who is asking about the casuals. Are the casuals who work daily for wages, ekibaluwa, is the employer obligated to pay NSSF for such employees who can come for 1 day or 2 days? Chibaluwa as in they work daily.
Yes, okay. So the NSSF Act doesn't differentiate permanent from temporary or casual employee. It defines as an employee as someone who is employed in Uganda under a contract of service, which can be written or oral. Now, for the casual laborers, I would say most of them have, I would say, oral contracts. They come, they're asked to do work, and they're paid maybe on a daily basis or weekly or monthly. Now, because there's no threshold for in terms of amount of money to contribute like URA has, and like I said, it doesn't differentiate from permanent or temporary or casual. If you're an employee, if you have an oral contract, even you're doing work for wages, you consider to be an employee, right? So what we advise employers usually is, if someone is coming to do that kind of work for you, make sure you, one, get their national ID, so that whether they work for 1 week or 6 months or 2 months, you're able to register them and then contribute for them, right? Then if it's a subcontractor, like I said, even that subcontractor should be contributing for those employees. There's no threshold with NSSF, so whatever amount you're earning, you see, when someone starts working, you don't know if it's going to be 2 months or 1 week, but we've seen cases where someone will consistently employ the same casual laborers for 3 years, right? And they're paying them weekly. So just that they didn't know that it was going to be a week or 2 months. Sometimes you get complaints from employers that this category of employees don't want to contribute to NSSF. And what we usually advise is that as an employer, you can do your calculations and plan and have that discussion with these casual laborers about their net salary, the take home that they're going to get, so that there's no animosity in terms of deductions. If you intend to pay someone, let's say 10,000 shillings, we know that 5% should be deducted for NSSF. So you can let them know that I have 9,500 to pay you. So once you've had that discussion and agreement, whether the person works for 10 days or 2 months, like I said, you pay him his 9,500 that he had agreed on. And then you can let them know later on that actually there's some money I'm saving for you with NSSF. So to them, it then appears to be a bonus. And there's no friction about you've deducted my money, I expected 10,000, now I have 9,500. So I think it's important to have a discussion on the net salary, and then you won't have any issues going forward.
Thank you, Kenneth. I know the questions are so many, but what we'll do is that we are going to get the questions and then we'll draft a write-up responding to the questions that we'll have received, because we have limited time, but we'll send the feedback to you on email. We have another question. Maybe, Michael, did you have something to
Yes,
add?
I just want to just make a note on what Ken has said. You know, usually the people that sometimes employers feel like, this person is earning very little money, I'm trying to save them and protect them. Cases of whistleblowers sometimes come from actually such members, because at that point in time, most people, when they are working, at that point in time, they don't want their money to be touched at all. When they leave, they do the math and then they realize, no, actually ours at a loss. They're the same that come to us and say, no, you see, I've been working, and they give us all the detail. So I think when it comes to maybe my members or my staff are not interested in saving, and please just call on us. We come and sensitize if you're not able, and be able to give them a full picture to understand what social security is about, so that we can be able to address some of the fears that comes with it.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Faith, we have another question.
Yes.
Can I use my NSSF as cash collateral or guarantee in my business? And secondly, what happens when an employee refuses the employer to deduct the NSSF wages from their wages?
When the employer refuses?
When the employee. When the employee.
Ah, great. About using your NSSF as collateral, I don't think that is possible. It causes us a bit of issues, especially in amounts and security and the time frame when you're going to pay. This loan you're going to get, is it 10 years, and will you, it's a bit of a touchy subject that needs a bit of streamlining between the member, the fund, and the person who's going to give you this loan or whatever, because there are so many dynamics at play, and it's not advisable. Because if I go get a loan of 3 years, what if I disappear? Your contributions may not amount to that. It leaves both the fund and you in a bad place. So it's not a safe zone to go now. I think I wouldn't recommend that as well. And two, about if the employee refuses. I've seen that, I think, in the education sector, where when you ask the employers, why didn't you remit? And they say, but my staff don't want. They actually signed. I've seen evidence of papers where employees sign and say, no, don't deduct my money for NSSF. But the question I always put, like we mentioned, that what is your role as an employer? Because when push comes to shove, that employees on the safe side, it is you who didn't do what you're supposed to do. You as an employer, you are meant to ensure that these employees' remittances are made. So you take the upper hand, because it is you who's going to pay the penalty. It won't be the employee. The employee will sit and say, but the law says you're meant to pay. For me, I'm on the receiving end. So I always advise the employers that, please, at all costs, do what is right. Follow what the law says. Pay in accordance to the law. It is you who will be put in the courts of law and not the employees. I've also observed, Winnie, that the casuals, I think the road network has a lot of those. It's a bit touchy, where people just come. I was asked, a person has come today and just lifted the whole, and gone. For me, at the back of my mind, as an employer, I would be like, what am I paying them? Is it a wage? Then, of course, NSSF will come in. It's not about they are working for one day. No, they are receiving a wage where NSSF must come and deduct. And like also Michael said, sensitize them. They would not want that. But give them the benefits. Don't bring it as a way of it must be done. Show them the benefits. Talk to them. Engage them. Because casuals want for now. My problems are now. But when you're onboarding them, like we mentioned, it is your role to ensure that you give them this kind of wellness. Tell them the benefits are this. It may appear like your 10,000 is going to reduce, but remember, it will accrue over time. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you, Faith, is that even in the event that the employer has not remitted the contributions, in future, maybe 5 years down the road,
Yes.
I have to still pay that money.
You still have to pay that money because it's your obligation under the law.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Faith. We have another question, and I'll give this to, in case of NGOs, where sometimes funding is uncertain and delayed payments of contributions by the employer because of the funding does not come in on time or small income. So can they pay later? I think the question is not clear, but I'm thinking what they are trying to ask is the NGOs that get funding.
Arrears.
Yeah, how do they manage the payment process if I don't have the income now? What am I supposed to do? Do I pay the 5%? Do I wait to get all the 10 and 15? What do I do? Is there a structure? So it's, maybe I'll ask Kenneth.
Okay. Yeah. So we've had cases with the, maybe you said projects and others where we know that donor funds are not coming in. Would advise that if employees are working, maybe are not getting paid, it's important to communicate that to the fund. But remember, if someone has worked for a salary, whenever that salary comes, for example, you worked in January, February, and you're paid in May, we will have to consider that still as a January contribution. But in terms of penalties, you can still apply to the managing director and request for a waiver, explaining those terms, what happened with the delayed payments. So it's important to communicate these things so that we understand what's going on and there's no need to enforce in certain cases.
Yeah, before, is there something you want to say? But before, Kenneth, there's someone here who is asking about clearance certificate. They've recently been denied clearance certificate on money they didn't pay. So can you speak to the new procedure clearance certificate?
So I think, okay, I wouldn't really call them new. We have just tweaked certain things in terms of verification. Where now we're looking at a company should be compliant from the time they were eligible or registered, but mostly eligible. That's when we consider you compliant, and that's when you qualify for a clearance certificate. Now, there are different scenarios where one can still get a clearance certificate even when they're not fully compliant. If you're a newly registered company, for example, you're incorporated, let's say in November, you're incorporated, let's say earlier in November, you didn't have any employees in October, and you've just registered this month, you can qualify for a clearance certificate because there are no pending contributions expected for October. If it is a case of, let's say, a sole proprietor who's only one person, maybe the owner of a company, they don't have any employees, they would qualify, but for that case, we're not giving clearance certificates. We'd give you a letter which basically states that you do not have any employees and you're not an eligible employer, so you don't need a clearance certificate from NSSF. It's a substitute for a clearance certificate.
So in case I'm going to bid for, I have a bid.
Yes.
You just give me a letter.
If you do not have employees, we shall give you a letter stating that you don't have employees.
Maybe to Faith, there's also someone who is asking here that they're directors of companies and they don't earn from that company, maybe related to what Kenneth is saying. How would we treat a director who wants a clearance certificate? They don't want to register as an employer, but they want a clearance certificate. So how a director is treated? Do they qualify to register their companies as NSSF even if they're not earning income?
The essence of NSSF is usually they must be two. It's a partnership between employee-employer. So if a director has no employees, why would he be registering with NSSF? Because the essence of registering NSSF, I have employees, okay, under me. But then there are also sole directors who end up earning wages and not earning fees, okay? So we usually look into the detail of this company. Are you a sole director? Are you earning wages, or are you earning fees? If you're earning fees, NSSF will not come. But if you're paying yourself a wage, then you must remit NSSF. That is the threshold, because employers need to know that as long as a wage is disbursed, then NSSF has to come in. So if you're coming in and applying for, you can't come and register. If you have no employees, then what would you be registering? My company has no employees. You will not come in as NSSF, okay? But I always encourage people or employers to always write, you know, I have this company, I don't have employees, I'm a sole director, I don't earn this and this. It makes it easier when you're seeking a clearance, then we can easily write a letter, because we don't give a clearance certificate. A clearance certificate is only those that are under our threshold. So we'll just write and say he's not under our mandate because of A, B, C, D.
Thank you, Faith. We are running out of time, but before we do any other activity, I'd like to invite Michael to take us through the payment channels. In case I want to pay for myself as a voluntary member, what are the available options that I can use?
Okay, thank you so much, Winnie. I think I'll start with, if you're already an existing member, so I'm assuming you have an app. If you don't have our NSSF Go app, please just go to the Play Store and download it, and then be able to access. When you access the app, it gives you provision. For those who have never registered with NSSF as a new member, you will choose register to be a member. For those who are already members, you log into your account and go straight to Smart Life. When you go to Smart Life, it will give you provision. So you can be able, in there you will see that you'll be able to pay for through mobile money, both MTN and Airtel for now. You can pay FlexPay, and also you can do Visa. You can access all that on our web or on our web app, as he mentioned, Ken, that you go to just our NSSF website or app. But also we have provision where you can just use the normal USS code of payment for MTN and both Airtel, 165, 185, and go to financial, pension, and be able to also remit. So you have provisions there to be able to do a top up, and also to be able to do Smart Life. So we have as many channels. You can also go through Stanbic. For now, you can go and do off the counter. So you just go to a teller and be able to assist you. But you can reach us through our toll-free number, and we'll be able to guide you and give you all the nitty-gritties depending on where you want to pay from, and can also show you which areas are better than the others for your comfort.
Okay, thank you,
and convenience.
Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to read through the questions that we've received, but I'm also going to request the people that submitted them to send us their email addresses in case we don't have them. But there's someone who is saying it is difficult to generate a payment advice online. Kindly help us on the process and kindly take us through the steps of generating the payment number. This is a bit lengthy, but we have instructional videos that can help you go through the process. You can look at the videos and you self-serve, but we'll share with you the link on how you can access the instructions to generate a payment. Then I want to change my next of kin. Kindly advise on what to do. Maybe Michael, you can guide us on that briefly. I think also through our app, or you can walk in to a nearest branch. Yeah, our app gives you provision. Next of kin. Do you say next of kin? Yes, next of kin. No, okay. I think I need to. We don't really have next of kin. At the point of your registration, we just apart from you, we ask you to provide us information on whether you're married, and also if you have children. But also we take details of your parents. And I tell people that we take your parents regardless of whether they're alive or not. We take the detail because it helps us to differentiate you from. I tell people, Mugisa Michael, in the system, the last time I checked, we are 33. So I use the parents to know, if someone is searching for that information. Now, we don't have like a specific next of kin, like what we do for our employers, and medical insurance and the like. So when you want you have identified maybe there was a problem. We've had cases where someone says, I realize this is not actually my child and I want them to be moved.
There's a provision for that. So that may require you to walk into our office. But if you just go on the platform and you just need to add, you registered when you're still in school, now you're married, you have children, that provision is still there on our NSSF Go app. Or you can reach us through our branches, our branch network that Ken talked about, or call us through a toll-free number. I'm just trying to rush through it because of time, but the provision is there. Yes.
Thank you, Michael. Maybe we are going to use a minute or two to give our parting shots, but we also are going to be recognizing people that logged in, the first 20 people that logged in. But we also want to appreciate the people that have been following this engagement online on YouTube and Zoom. But before we do that, Michael, your parting shots.
Mine is just to speak through retirement again, and just to, I think, to re-echo, to just say that for you to have financial independence, you may have to consider to be able to save, and not just for the mandatory side for those who are already saving on your monthly from your employer, the 5 and the 10% that Ken talked about, but to be able to open a voluntary Smart Life Flexi kind of plan, setting up goals that will help you to reduce on the pressure that may come to your mandatory when you retire, so that you can be able to build some assets and be able to set up some, business ventures that will be able to grow your income. Why? Because financial independence, when you retire, you have to rely on some other account as opposed to what you've been relying on employment. But also talk about on change of lifestyle. As I said, retirement frees you up for all manner of things. And even though it's family or ministry, depending on your hobbies, vacation, or community, it's going to require money. It's going to require money, and you have put some money aside. But also community engagement, for you to be able to live a purposeful life, to be able to engage communities, to be able to make a difference, but also to stay socially connected. Those are some of the things that come with retirement, so that you don't live in isolation, but also you live with dignity. You need to have to plan it. As I said earlier, you may live the next 20, 30 years after you have come out of this kind of environment, a work environment that we are in, and doesn't stop you from eating, doesn't stop you from dressing up, doesn't stop you from taking care of others because you've retired. No, you still need to live a life, and sometimes you need to live it even better, way better. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you. I think we got a very important question that we didn't address. So in your closing remarks, could you also speak about, because someone is asking, if I get to the age of 55, do I take my 5% or 15%? It would be really sad for us to close without responding to that question. Is it by 5, by 10? I've saved for all these years. Yeah.
Okay. I think at 55, you're entitled to all, okay? And the onus is up to you whether you want to leave part of it with the fund, okay, and join Smart Life like Mike has talked about, but you're entitled to all. There's no 5, there's no 10%. The issues of 10 and 5% come in as Kenneth mentioned, when it comes to special contributions, but you're entitled to your benefit. My parting shots are, to the employers, this life that Michael talked about that is continuous, I believe you have a role to play. It's upon you to ensure that your employees have a secure future in retirement. It's one thing for us to say we must plan for retirement, but you employers are part of the process of retirement. If you look at your obligations, not as legal obligations, but moral obligations, like you have a duty of care to see that as you are well off in your retirement, also your employees are. So I call upon employers to fulfill their obligations, to ensure that your employees have a secure retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. Kenneth, your parting shots?
Mine are both to the employers and employees. For the employers, like I was talking about the clearance certificates and people who may not be up to date. If you have any category of employees that you're not sure about, if there's some people who you're paying any sort of wages or money and you're not contributing for them, and you're not sure whether they're eligible or not, please get in touch with us to confirm and so that we can advise accordingly. Because it's better to sort out the problem early enough before penalties and interest come in and and everyone is aware of what they should be doing correctly, rather than waiting for 5 years for maybe an audit to come in and then you have a lot of money to pay. So get in touch with us where you're not sure of any things, and we shall advise accordingly. For the employees, like I talked about, if you can get a written contract, please do, and keep it properly, because it will help you later on in case your employer is not contributing the right amounts for you. And it helps us also to do some verification and confirming those figures later on with the company. So make sure you're registered, you have your written contracts, keep them, or even pay slips. Sometimes we take things for granted. We think maybe I'm too young, I may not need this money immediately, but 20 years down the road, those documents become very, very important. So keep them very well, and then in case there are any issues, you can present them to us to follow up on your behalf.
Thank you, Kenneth. I also want to thank our viewers. Thank you for tuning in. You're all important stakeholders. Thank you for making us your partners in ensuring that we deliver a meaningful retirement for our savers. I know that we also always have quarterly engagements, so we may not be able to see you soon. So we'll only see you after the next year. So I want to thank you for supporting us and to wish you a happy New Year and a Merry Christmas. But before we sign out, I want to recognize the viewers that logged on first. Like I said, everyone is important. Thank you for tuning in. But at least these people logged in earlier than the rest of us. And your rewards are here. Please send us your addresses. We are going to send them through courier. Send us your name. Of course, we have the names. We need your address where we can send you this gift. The gifts are here and they are ready. So we have Dominic Jagwe, we have Akan Dwaho, Jethro Bill, Charles Kasule, Eli Kamlegeya, Dennis Otema, Shamira Nankabira, Banita Nasimbwa, Onyango Kenneth, and Stephen. Hiya, thank you for tuning in earlier. So please send us your addresses. But for now, we also have Anirunda Mokjehe. It is a difficult name, but please send us your contacts. We'll call you, and your addresses where we can send you these diaries. Thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed day.